What's up everybody, my name is Kevin and I want to kick off the start to my YouTube channel with a look into my entire game collection. Let's not waste any more time, so let's get right into it. The original Microsoft Xbox was a graphical powerhouse of its time. Out of every system in my collection, this is my largest with over 270 unique titles. My goal is to collect every North American release for the original Xbox. That's a little over 880 games. Teen Titans is my rarest game in my collection so far. Next would be Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and of course, Jet Set Radio Future, a staple for any original Xbox collection. Panzer Dragoon Orta may not be rare, but it is my favorite game on the system, next to SSX Tricky and a classic RPG, Jade Empire. The Xbox 360 was an amazing follow-up to the original Xbox. There were a lot of amazing games for the system. My collection isn't that spectacular, however, I think I have most of the heavy hitters. A few of my favorites are Left 4 Dead 2, The Orange Box, and Halo 3. Some of the best memories I have of this console was spending endless hours of my high school years playing Halo 3 online. The Nintendo 64 was the first console I ever owned. Can you tell? This one is pretty beat up. I've had it for over 20 years and it shows. Why does mine have a duct tape label? Well, in college, all three of my roommates had an N64, so to make sure we didn't get ours mixed up, we labeled ours. My collection is pretty modest. I am missing some big ones like 007 GoldenEye and of course Mario Kart 64. Once the prices of N64 games go down, I will start collecting for this system again. My favorite games for the N64 are Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, Super Smash Bros., and Star Fox 64. The Nintendo Wii, also known as the Nintendo Revolution when it was a prototype, definitely lived up to the Revolution name. The motion controls brought millions of non-gamers into the world of gaming. Despite others' opinions about the gimmick of motion controls, I believe that was its biggest strength, allowing for more immersive gameplay and paving the way for AR and VR gaming. Not only that, but giving the Wii backwards compatibility to the GameCube was a seriously smart decision. My Wii collection is seriously lacking. There are too many great games that I'm missing, and I want to get more. But out of the ones I do have, my favorite is The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. The Nintendo Switch is one of my favorite consoles. It has portability, switchability, touchscreen, motion controls, HD rumble, third-party support, and a bunch of amazing titles. Of course, things like Joy-Con drift, lack of online voice chat, and graphics are all things that should be better or fixed. However, I still believe Nintendo knocked it out of the park with this console. Most of the games I own for the Switch are digital, as you see here, but I do have a few physical copies. My favorite games for the Switch are Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Pokemon Shield, and The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. These three games have taken up so much of my time. It's ridiculous, albeit very fun. Breath of the Wild is one of my top 3 favorite video games of all time. This is my PlayStation 2. It's old, it's weathered, it's awesome. When the PlayStation 2 came out, it quickly rose to the top as the best-selling console of all time, selling over 158 million units. With close to 2,000 games released for the PS2, you would think I would have a lot of games for it. Well, I do not. In fact, I only have 4 games for it. This is a system I need to start collecting for. Out of the games I do have, Guitar Hero 2 is one of my favorites for the system. This game helped inspire me to learn to play electric guitar. Thanks, Guitar Hero. The PlayStation 3 is a console I recently acquired and fell in love with. I am in awe of the exclusives for this system, and not only that, it is a great Blu-ray player. The graphics are about on par with the Xbox 360. But with games like God of War 3, The Last of Us, and the Uncharted series, it isn't hard to see why the PS3 is amazing. One of my favorite video games of all time is on the PS3, and that game is Uncharted 2. This game has an incredible cinematic story, lively characters, superb platforming, and is a great overall gaming experience. I cannot wait to explore more of the games for the PS3. Released back in 1977, the Atari 2600 popularized the use of cartridges as physical gaming media. The games are extremely basic compared to today's standards, but they're still very charming, and the core gameplay is solid. Every game room should have an Atari 2600. I have about 60 games for the 2600. Unfortunately, my 2600 is broken and will not play games. Luckily, I have an Atari 7800. The Atari 7800 was released in 1986 and offered great arcade ports and 2600 backwards compatibility. There were only 59 games released for the 7800 in North America, and I hope to end up collecting them all. My favorite game for the system is Galaga. It is my favorite arcade game of all time. The Game Boy was an amazing handheld system for the time and offered many great games. Here's my collection of Game Boy games. Pokemon Red is credited with kicking off my love for video games. I need to collect more for this system because there are hundreds of amazing games. The Game Boy Advance was an amazing console that offered Super Nintendo-like graphics and games on the go. But when they released the Game Boy Advance SP, everything changed because of that oh-so-sweet light. My Game Boy Advance collection has morphed over the years, but my favorite games for the system were Pokemon Ruby and Emerald. Also, here is a homebrew game I bought from Radical Reggie. You can find him on YouTube. The DS was another revolutionary system released by Nintendo. I have an original DS, 2 DS Lites, and a DSi. Unfortunately, I lost my entire Nintendo DS collection many years ago, and now I only play using this R4 emulation cartridge. In the future, I would love to regain the games I lost. Nintendo always loves trying new things, and one thing they were always trying to perfect since the Virtual Boy was visual 3D gameplay. Originally, the 3D on the 3DS didn't work perfectly and gave people headaches. But when the new 3DS was released with face tracking software, it fixed most of the 3D issues. Here are some highlights from my modest 3DS collection. In my opinion, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are some of the best Pokemon games ever released. The PSP Go was considered a flop and a failure compared to its predecessor, the PSP 3000. But it was doing things way ahead of its time. It offered you the ability to play on the TV or handheld, much like the Nintendo Switch. It also did not support physical games, and only offered downloadable games through the PlayStation Store. The PSP Go is one of my favorite handhelds ever. The last part of my collection I wanted to highlight is my Galaga Arcade 1-Up cabinet. Like I said earlier, my favorite arcade game is Galaga, and when Arcade 1-Up came along, releasing affordable arcade cabinets, I had to get one. That was an overview of my entire collection. Look out for a video coming soon detailing my original Xbox collection, and please let me know in the comments what games I should pick up for my lacking collections like the PS2, Wii, and 3DS. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.